Well,
Yeah.
we are doing our coaching call today. And
Yeah.
so feel free to just hop right in, get us started here.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Now, lots of
I'm
ways
going
we
to
could go
support
with
you.
this.
Thanks.
So many ways. Okay, well, so I will ask this question first because it might be that you're going to answer it on our Tuesday call. So if you
Okay.
are, then we can wait. But
Mhm.
as Lee brought up as well about the money archetypes and things
Yep.
and just digging into those more. So I'm excited to dig in those more. And then also, I've mentioned before on working in those in a relationship. So my archetype with spouse's archetype, right? So
Yeah.
any of that. So if that's coming up, we can wait. If it's something you want to touch on today a little bit, that would be fun. And it might
Yeah.
open up more of what unfolds on Tuesday as well. So
Right.
does that help at all or should we
Yeah.
wait? Whatever you think. Okay.
Well, yeah, let me just share that. So the way that I mean, there's a couple of, I'll wait till Lee has that. Hi, Lee.
Okay.
I'm just talking about,
Hi. Yeah.
Linda asked a kind of a general, I would say a general-ish
Mhm.
question about archetypes, like wondering if, if I'm going to be talking about this more on Tuesday in our training, we can table it. But I do want to just set your expectations with the archetype work. Yes, I'm talking about it Tuesday, but Linda, you asked something very specific about in your partnership and how you deal with that. That is a very specific, because it depends on the it's like a recipe, right? It's like
Oh,
a
yes.
pot
Yes.
of
The two
different
ingredients are.
personalities, and yeah, and it's really not just your top archetypes, but it's really the top three that are kind of like cooking together. And
Okay.
so and you don't know like which qualities, because like I'll just say for me, and this is nothing with a partnership, but just in general, qualities of, because one of the things we are going to talk about is I'm going to invite you to start looking at now also your top two and three, right?
Okay.
Because it's not just the top architect has the biggest impact on you and money, but the other ones have an impact. And what I have found, at least in my life, it may not be this way for you, but situationally, my second archetype rises to the top. In
Mhm.
certain situations, that one takes control. And
Cool.
now that I know that, like I'm able to deal, to work with that, but I just wasn't consciously aware of it at the time. So you do want to be aware of all of these qualities of all three of your archetypes. And so if you take that and you look at that from the perspective of now working with a partner, it gets tricky. Like,
Mhm.
certain
Yeah.
situations can bring out certain parts of them in any of their top three archetypes, really. So, and then it's like figuring that out. So, what I would say, and I did, Linda, at way back when, because Lee, just so you know, Linda and I have worked together for quite a long time. And we did talk about the archetypes like a few years ago, 2, 3 years ago, I think it was. And you figured out what Scott's were. I don't know if he took the test or something.
I hadn't taken that.
And I did a quick little, very short, like very high level analysis. Okay. So of like how you got like some of the things that might cause friction, and at a very high level, what you can do to deal with it. But it's even at that level, the high level that I did it at, like it would be better. Here's what I would suggest for partnerships. And Lee, you are welcome to send the link to your partner if you want to take the quiz. That's like, I can send you that link if you don't still have it. I mean, it was a while ago. Perfect. No worries. Like, you can feel free to send it to them. You can let me know what the top three are. If a situation comes up where it's both of you together, I think the best way to approach it is ask me about that specific situation. Let me know what their archetypes are. And we can together determine, like, okay, in that situation, here's what I would recommend. Do you see what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Very
Yeah.
much. Mm-hmm.
Now, on a side, totally different, well, that's not really different, but if you want me to do like a deeper analysis, like a partnership type reading, we could call it, or something where we really talk about it, that would be a completely separate thing that we would schedule, and it would be with them. And so that's something else we could do at some point
Mm-hmm.
too.
Definitely.
But for what this format is, I would say just bring a situation
Mm-hmm.
and we'll talk about it and we'll
Cool.
see what we can do. How's that sound?
Okay. Yes, I agree. That's good. I
Okay.
can see how they take. Yeah, it could take. very much some fine tuning. And I like that with the top threes in there, that does stir the soup a different way each time. So that's, very much. I can see that. And it's really great to know that it's not always a cookie cutter way it's going to play out, that there's a lot of flexibility. So, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, really, like situations. I mean, that's the biggest way that I have, like, really being aware of how you are in certain situations and what takes over in that situation. What qualities are taking you over in a way, and what archetype is that coming from? And looking at all three of them. Yeah, that's going to give you good info.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
That's really good. And then in that situation, are we rising up and in the empowered part of the archetype, or are we in the fear part and resisting? And
exactly.
Okay. Now that's good. That's helpful. And
okay.
I appreciate that. And even just doing the having him do the test was helpful, just to understand, like, oh, okay, now I see more why he made this choice, because to him that made sense. And so I could be supportive and I could be okay and not defensive or arguing. It's like, oh, okay, I see that. Let's see how it could play out for both of us, that it's a win-win, and our strengths are strong. So, okay.
Yeah. And like for my husband, well, I haven't had him do the test. I always say I'm going to, and we never get around to it, but I just know what his number one is. Like, so obvious to me. His number one, I mean, I would be shocked if that wasn't his number one, but what I think is his number one is my lowest. So, and that is like our biggest friction point with money. So it's like, I see what's driving him. And it's like, and I run away from that. So no wonder we're like on separate pages with this. So now that I understand that, like, I also, your lowest archetype can tell you kind of what you avoid. And that's also an invitation to, like, okay, like, where could I, so I've actually been doing work on my lowest one, because I know that's his highest one, and it'll help me communicate with him better if I work on where I'm like things that I'm avoiding that I don't want to face. You know what I'm saying? So it's so there's so much depth. So it really comes down to asking yourself questions. So that's what we're going to do Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be more like a workshop. Like, it's going to be a working session where there's some journaling that I'll have you do that will just help you create that awareness, a deeper awareness now, especially with this number 2 and number 3, but also number 1 too. And then we'll do a couple other things too, depending on how long that takes. But yeah, just opening up the awareness, and then we talk, apply it. Okay, this situation's going on. How could I, like, a good question would be, okay, I'm having this situation. What would it look like in this situation if I stepped into the empowered traits of, my X archetype? And then versus, okay, and this is what I've been doing. What could I do differently to rise up?
Yes, very much. Okay.
That's the best way, really, to learn to embody it. That's the best way to embody it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing very fast. This is good. Okay, thanks. Remind myself of that instead of being defensive or anything. It's like, let's look at it from the empowered point of view. And I appreciate those cards. Those cards are so beautiful. And then looking at that, and just even looking at the picture, like, triggers some peace as well. It's like a connection, like, oh, it's like a little hug. So I just like looking at the pictures, it's like a little hug. I'm like, okay, I'm home. And then I'm home, but what am I resisting or what am I embracing? And so, they're very, very helpful. So there's a lot of neat energy in those too, not just words. It's
Yeah.
So,
They all have a vibration.
Yes.
The art on those cards was very carefully selected and chosen to really fit the vibration of that archetype.
Oh,
so it wasn't just like they didn't just stumble onto the pictures.
No, they all very much do. Oh, I can feel that when I hold the different cards. I'm like, wow, this one's so perfect for it. The sparkler on the celebrity, I think, is there. It's like, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's neat.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool.
So does that sort of help? Does that help a little bit?
Helped a lot. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's great because it answered it a lot. It also knowing the 3 are at play because I'd kind of forgotten 2 and 3. And for me, they're really just a point or so away. So they're really not a lot of distance in them. So that's good to remember those. And that's great because I will spend a little more time with those 2. And I'm glad we're doing that Tuesday. So that was great to remember. And just having some grace, and then knowing my spouses as well. And I can pull the cards out and connect with those in a time where there is a situation that I'm not quite understanding. Or if there's some tension or anything, that's like, oh, how can we look at this differently with these cards? So appreciate that a lot. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And then if I have to, I'll email you. Help.
Of course. Right. And Lee stepped away. I was going to tell her, she might not remember what her other 2 are. Do you remember what your other 2 are, Linda?
I am the ruler first, and then there was the not the collector, the accumulator. The accumulator and the nurturer, I believe, are my top 3.
Accumulator and nurturer. Okay. Yeah.
I'm 99% sure that's
Okay, I'm just looking for something here.
Yeah. Accumulator, nurturer, ruler.
Okay. Accumulator, nurturer.
Celebrity is my last. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then is Lee back?
Yep, Lee's back. Yay.
Okay. Lee, I don't know if you remember your other 2, but I have them here if you don't. Do you want me to share them with you? If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Right. Yeah. No, I have them written down, but not in front of me. So if you have them in front of you.
Yes, I do. Yes. They are Alchemist is number 2 and Accumulator is number 1. And then you had a tie for your bottom, which was Celebrity and Ruler.
Wait a minute. So Connector was number 1.
Connector's number 1. And then Alchemist number 2.
And 3?
Accumulator number 3.
And last one?
The lowest was a tie. It was a tie between Celebrity and Ruler. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense, at least the Celebrity one, based on some of the things you've shared.
For both of us.
Gosh, it's the lowest. You think I want to face that one?
I don't want to be a public eye.
Yeah.
I'm number 1 of the Celebrity ladies. I can help you in that.
That's why we like hanging out with you.
I know. I think Linda's the ruler. You both are my lowest ones.
Yeah, is that funny? We are. We got both covered there.
And ladies, you both have Accumulator in the top 3. That's my bottom. So
very interesting. Wow.
Yep.
Very.
Yeah, and this was very interesting. This is a side note. We don't need to share this beyond our little group. I'm going to share it with you though. No, I find this fascinating. I did a lot of Sacred Money Archetype readings when I first got certified with this a couple of years ago. Did a ton of them. And I would say 90% of the people, that's a pretty good estimate. Their number 1 was the Accumulator, which I thought was hilarious because that was my lowest. I'm like, how am I attracting all of these people? They're all accumulators, all of them.
Wow, you accumulated the accumulators.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them I was doing it for free. And accumulators, they really don't want to, it's scary for them to spend money. Like a lot of stuff comes up, right? It's gonna, once you spend it once, it's gone and it can never be regenerated. It's kind of a fear of a lot of accumulators. Like it's hard to believe that it's abundant and there's flow. So it could have been that people are like, that felt comfortable. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting.
I would bet that plays a big role. Big time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And it also affirmed to me, how spot on these cards are.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent program. I'm
Yeah.
really glad you got certified in it. It's really neat.
Yeah, it's fun.
Did you order the cards, Linda, or just print them out?
I had printed them, and then I ordered them through Jill too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you have hard copies of them, Lee, but we can get you those if you want a set. But you can see the pictures, in the PDF too, the full color.
Yeah.
Get the gist of it. If you want an actual, they do come in. It's like a cardstock, printed front and back. They're beautiful. Yeah. So if you want a copy of them, a set of those, let me know. I can't order the individual ones. It comes by a whole set. But yeah, just let me know and I can get those for you.
Yeah, it is nice to have.
Kind of nice to have.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep those safe. Yeah, and then I have my little paper ones that I printed that I write all over. But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, the set is. I was
just gonna say, especially like if you want to have family members or people taking the test, and then you've got the whole set there. It makes it easy for them to see what they are. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for that. Okay. So go ahead, Lee, if you have something.
Jill, I had those questions, I emailed you.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes. Which one do you want to, I think there were 2 questions in there. Which one do you want to hit first?
I guess, I'm trying to think. I don't have in front of me. The order was, the one was about the persona and then.
Persona, yep. And
then how you present yourself.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of the celebrity, basically.
That's awesome.
They're intertwined, so I don't know. I'll leave it up to you if there's a better order to approach it.
Do you want to ask the question so Linda can hear it, or would you like me to read it? It's up to you. What do you prefer?
Is it really long? It's basically, Linda, about persona. I've taken a few business courses here in Japan, and I'm not saying that this is a Japanese thing, but what I got from them more was, and actually there was one yoga teacher who did one about business, looking at the persona of who you're trying to sell to. And the way I kept hearing it, and this can be my way of hearing it, was the persona was really important, but I didn't feel as much as with the American teacher, but kind of losing my message, like focusing more on who is the persona. And my take was more, well, don't I need to develop me more? And maybe it'll fit this persona, but maybe it won't fit that persona and somebody else. So that was one question. And the other was about how you present yourself, because I really like how Jill, she sends emails and talks about something. And then at the end, she might say, I have something I can offer. So it's very quiet and not in your face, and then it's clearly your message is what you're getting at. And I see a lot of other things, I guess on SNS where people are promoting themselves. And I'm not saying the focus is just on them, because they do, like asking, for testimonials on, well, what is so-and-so like? And then posting, well, so-and-so said this is, not this is what I'm like, but so-and-so is, and then posting that, and in that message is included why the course is good, why really great things about the course. But the question is, what is so-and-so like? Or somebody else saying, this is kind of why you should work with me. These are just 2 examples, but I see a lot of self-promotion isn't the right word, but it's different from what Jill does, is all I can say. So I hope you understand what that means. Do you know what I mean, Jill, by that?
Oh, yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, I think I know what you mean. You can tell me if I'm not on the mark.
Yeah. So, and some of these people are really great teachers. But I cannot, well, look, my celebrity is the lowest. I can't do that. Maybe I need to get over my archetype or, integrate it more. But for me, it would be more, if I were to ask a question like that, it'd be more like, well, what is Lee's message? How is it fitting into your life? How's it making a difference? Not me. And so my question is more about the persona, and then how, I guess, your own persona, how you're presenting yourself. Those were my main things that came up. And Linda and Jill thought it might be helpful for you too. So that's why she brought it.
Yeah. No, thank you. It is very, very, thank you. You bring up great things always. Yes. Take it away, Jill. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Okay. So let's look at the first one first. This one about persona. So what that's actually called, because I was a little confused at first when you were using the term persona, because when I think of persona, I think of the the persona that I put out to the world versus the person that is my ideal client. So I tend to, but I think you're talking about the ideal client, the niche, who you're marketing to, who you're speaking to, and who your message is for. So it is very important to, if you're going to have a successful business, that you do target a very specific person that has a specific problem or need that you can solve. And that is one of the things that, like, if you don't, like, that's the first place to start. I mean, you have to know your message 100%. So if you're not clear on your message, then none of the other stuff really matters, because you won't be sharing anything that, it won't be coherent. You know, you have to feel like you're clear before anyone else can hear you. So if you're shaky on your own message, that needs to be clarified first. But once you know what your message is, like, you know, for example, in my first iteration of the business where I was marketing, which is, I think, when I met both of you, I was marketing helping your kids feel confident and have healthy self-esteem, right? So that was I mean, I still am passionate about that message, but as my son's grown up, my interests of what I want to talk about and share now have changed. But then I was like, oh my God, because I could see what was happening with him when he was young. And I could see, like, I knew I was making mistakes, and I was fast forwarding it in my mind, like, oh my God, we have to change. Like, I got to change the trajectory here, because I don't see this going well. And I want him to be a healthy teen and grow into be a healthy adult emotionally. So I was having a crisis in my life, and I did a lot, so much, like, research, like studying research, going within and trying and figuring out what do I need to change. And I changed a bunch of stuff, and it worked. So my message became, oh my God, I can't be the only parent that cares about this thing, worries about it, sees warning signs, and wants to change it. So that challenge I went through got me very clear on what felt like the most important thing for me to share with other people at that time. So much so that I decided I'm quitting my corporate job. I have to create a business around this, because that's how important it is to me. So at that point, then I had to figure out, okay, so I know what my message is. Who needs to hear this message? Who is the exact person that would hear me talk about this and be like, I need that. I'm signing up for that. Who's that person? I think that's what you're talking about the persona, like, or maybe not, but that is what I call that person. That is my ideal client. I call them my perfect ideal client. So that's my perfect ideal client. So who is that person? Well, they're going to be a mom, right? They're going to be a mom. Their kids are going to be in a certain age range, because, you know, we've got this window of time we can, like, mold our kids. So that's the ideal age range I wanted to work with. Does it mean that I wasn't really dealing with parents of teens at that time. Does that mean that parents of teens don't need this? Absolutely not. It's just that if I am going to really niche down and, like, speak to one person, that's the one person I'm speaking to. The people that still have the most window of opportunity to make a change. So I knew that the kids were going to be young. I knew that they were going to be spiritual, because a lot of the things I talk about are a little woo-woo. So they need to be open to that. They need to be conscious. They need to be into the spiritual growth. They also need to be into their own spiritual growth and not just want to hand their kid off to me, which a lot of people, you know, they would. They're not my ideal clients, because as you both know, all the work to help your kids is working with you, right? To change. And that's how I helped my son. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was a mirror of what was going on inside of me. So I would make a list of these are the qualities of a person that would love my message. And so I'm not changing my message to fit a certain type of person. And I also know my message is not going to be for everybody. So who is that one person that would really want my message? Now, does that mean that anyone that doesn't quite meet those narrow criteria that they're not going to hear me or see me or want my stuff. No, I have a ton of grandparents that joined my community back then, a ton. I had a grandparent, a man, a grandpa, take one of my programs for his grandson. Like, I don't speak, none of my marketing was to grandpas, but he, like, so he still, and I had a woman who signed up for Powerful Girl Within, and I think she paid like $1,000, and her daughter was in her 20s and didn't live at home. She signed up because she was barely on a speaking relationship with her daughter. And in the short time of that program, she completely changed their relationship with that daughter. So, but I wasn't speaking to parents of grown children who live outside the house. So it doesn't mean, so you're going to be clear on your message, you're clear on who you're talking to, but you will still capture people out there that there's something about your message that just like, oh, that's what I'm connecting with. Okay. But you don't worry about them or try to find them because they're not your targets. So does that make sense? And does this answer your question? Yeah. So
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're not changing yourself, you're not changing your message, but it does require clarity on your message, and it does require clarity on not only who can you help with this, but who do you want to help? What kind of people do you like to work with? I mean, I had a few, I mean, not too many, but I'd say I had a handful of clients over the years that, whoa, they helped me get real clear on who I don't want to work with. They helped me fine tune that list. Now, every single client I have, I absolutely adore. I adore like a family member, because this is like my core, like this is my person. And I know I can help them, and they get help. They are helped. So, and it's fun. The sessions are fun. And so that's the value of getting really clear on who that ideal client is, because you're going to love them. You're going to love working with them, and it won't ever feel like a chore. Like, I'm so energized when I get off a call. Whereas some of these clients that I referred to from the way past, I'd get off and I'd be like, they just like sucked the life out of me and I had nothing left. That's not how you want to work in your business. So anything else around that one before we talk about the other one, or before we check in, see if Linda's got anything?
No, that's, in the workshops I took here, it was called persona. So that's why it was
okay.
that word.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
They use the word persona.
Got it.
Yeah. So now I've got to see, what's coming up as me. I don't know if this is a shout or what, but I have an idea of who that is, but to actually put it down and commit to that, then some resistance is coming up because I feel like I'm kind of closing in. So that's the first reaction that I have.
Yes. Yes. And what are you saying to yourself in your head when you feel that?
Well, actually, the first reaction before you asked that was a closing in. And the second reaction was that, gee, but what if this is successful? And then fear comes up. Putting myself out there and like taking the challenge. So maybe that's more it. There's my celebrity.
Yes. Wanting to run away from that.
Like,
right? Yeah. I'm so good at the running, aren't I? Just run in the wrong direction. Maybe that's it. But and it's making a commitment to it. So that's where one part where I'm stuck. So.
Well, I will share with you, Lee, that and again, this is I'm going to get really vulnerable with this. So for the last, I'd say 3 years, I've shifted my niche. I mean, that's nothing. Like, I think everybody knows that now. I've shifted my niche, but I haven't really been willing to claim who I'm really here to support right now. I've just done it. In fact, yesterday I was thinking, wow, I think I'm finally owning it. I can finally own it now. Finally owning it. I have not, the same thing as what you're saying. I felt resistance. I've had people suggest this to me for the last few years. I even did a version of what I'm saying I'm doing now about 5 or 6 years ago, and worked with several clients doing it successfully. And I still wouldn't name it that. And who that is a mompreneur, a mom who has a business, right? Like, for some reason, I couldn't get myself to go there with that part of it. With kids that are like becoming independent. So they're, not the little kids anymore. So like they're either teens or they're getting up to where, hey, now I'm looking for something that I really want to get out there and do. And I want to make it successful. I want to earn money. Like, I want to have it profitable. And so, but for me to say that was really hard. And actually, like, that's probably the best person for the Love Yourself Rich program, honestly. So, but like, I couldn't really see it and couldn't say it. So my point is that it took me a good 2 or 3 years to really be able to say, yeah, this is what I do. This is who I help. This is who I'm here to help right now. That's what my message is about right now. Because I struggled for so many years in a business that I felt like, oh, like, I love it so much, but I can't, it's not consistent income. I'd have like a peak month and then I would like have, like nothing. And I couldn't count on it. It wasn't reliable for me. So I had to figure all that stuff out. And now that I've figured out a bunch of stuff, now it's like, okay, I need to help the people that are having that problem right now, because I know they're out there. And it's the same as when I started my business before. It was an answer to a serious problem that I was personally having that I solved. And they say your mess is your message. Your biggest mess is your message. So you can find huge gems and treasures in your biggest challenges. And as you work through them, and as you learn about yourself, and you learn about how like that specific thing works, now like, you have wisdom around that. You have stuff to share that other people don't have access to right now. So that can also help you if you think about stuff in your own life from that perspective. That can help you, like, with clarifying message, figuring out who you're here to help. In terms of like owning it, how do you own it? It's for me, how it was is I just kept trying it on and getting a lot of encouragement from others. Those two things. Like, I'm always in a coaching program. On very rare occasions have I not been, because we need that support. Like, the coach needs support too. Like, we all can't see our own stuff. So that has been very helpful for me. And then just trying it on, testing the waters, dipping my toe in. I dipped my toe in a few years ago, like I said. I didn't really own it though. So got a few clients doing it, but like, I wasn't like going all the way. So that's how you just, like we'll use Linda's example with the fear of the water. Dip the toe in, put the life jacket on. I would liken the life jacket to like having, like someone you can bounce, like either a coach or a accountability partner or something, someone that you can like kind of like get a little support from. And then like, boom, then you jump in and you're like, oh, let me give it a shot. And if you're like, floundering a little bit, like if you're close to the side, you can grab on. So like, you got someone you can go to and say, I did it, but this is what happened. And I need to, like, you just grab on, right? And so it's kind of like that. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, there's nothing to be afraid of here. I got this. But yeah, it's like taking those baby steps. Like we talked about and also with Julie, turtle steps. Take the turtle steps. You have to step forward, and it is going to be uncomfortable. Might be a little painful because just it's something different. But that is the only way to get across that threshold. You're going to have to go through the discomfort. There's not an easy way. If anyone tells you there's an easy way with no pain, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm not trying to put anybody down, but like now I see like there is no easy way. Like we have to step into the fire to be able to move to the other side of where we want to go. but we can control the temperature of the fire. We can control how hot it has to get. That's what, like, I don't, knock on wood, I don't think I mean, I haven't done anything that felt so painful, because I've structured support around me. I take really tiny turtle steps and then a few big jumps, and then I'm like, oh, let's back it off. Yeah. So we got you, Lee.
Thank you.
You can try something out, and then you come back to this call and you let us know what happened. We can support you, because we see your brilliance. Truly. I mean, you know, every week you bring, like, your questions, like in your questions are so brilliant and so deep. Another reason why I wanted to just, like, let's talk about this here, because we need to, because it's big. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any comments about, wait a minute. Oh, how do I put myself out there? Yeah. Any comments about any of that, or questions?
Do you have anything, Lee? No, I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to let you go, such as your
No, go
question.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And maybe this would help me, maybe Lee as well. And so I like this. This all makes sense. And then I feel myself freezing, and that might be that celebrity low thing, but I'm all of a sudden in there. It starts to feel good, and I'm in the limelight. Things are rolling, and then all of a sudden, I'll kind of do something to sabotage it a little bit. Like, whoa, it's a little too comfy, a little too nice. And so I kind of joke about I think you and I were talking about this yesterday too, a little bit of the be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of like, well, I'm also uncomfortable feeling comfortable in some situations, if that makes sense. So I know it's a funny way to put it, yet it's a little bit of that fear of success, or that fear of shining. And then will I be in the spotlight? Will I be exposed? Will I be taken advantage of? Those things rise up. So whatever fears rise up. So maybe as a question, a little bit more on that might help us lower celebrity people understand. Okay, so we're digging in, our mess is our message. We're getting it out. We're finding our niche, and then it's working. And that moment of, wow, I am out here swimming, and I want to keep swimming, and I don't want to sabotage it this time. I don't want to whatever kick the shark, and then now I'm floundering. And so it's that being okay with the peace and being okay with the shining. I know it's very vague and very general, yet if there's anything intuitive that pops up now on that, would be awesome, please.
Yeah, for sure. So, and great question.
We started it. We all build on each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, because everybody experiences, there's always like a little bit of a backlash, right? There's always going to be the backlash. So first of all, just knowing that there's a backlash, and you will survive the backlash, is like, that's the thing, is huge. Whatever it is, you're going to figure it out, and you're going to get through it, and you're actually going to survive. Like, I mean, that is the truth.
Yeah, that's huge. And picturing the swimming analogy helps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you will survive. Mm-hmm. You will. There is an answer. You cannot have a problem without an answer also being available. They come together. It's a package. So if a problem arises, there's an answer right there. So just know that. Just tell yourself that, for one thing. Like, well, I'm going to be okay even if this happens. I even had way early, one of my greatest fears was that, like, a threat on my family. I had someone email me a threat. I mean, I was freaking out. I called my coach. She got on the phone with me immediately. And, the first thing, well, actually there were two instances that were separate, but this one, basically it's like, that's a troll. These people don't follow through on that. Well, the person was in another country for one thing. Nobody had my address. It's like, I mean, the chances, like, people lash out because they feel, because they're anonymous. So it's like completely safe. you trigger something in someone. I mean, I have the triggering that I have done to people that I didn't even was aware of. I wrote a thing about angels once, and I got like this like unbelievable email from somebody. I'm like, wow! Like, I immediately unsubscribed them. People get triggered. People get triggered when you shine too. You can just, it might not be your message. It might just be you're shining, and that triggers them terribly because they're not shining and they wish they were. And some people choose to cower, and other people lash out like that and make a threat. So your worst fears but what I think is more insidious and probably more common is that, and this has happened for me, extreme exhaustion hits me. And it used to come up when I would do a launch. So I would do a launch. I had a goal of a certain number of people to sign up for a certain thing. I had a financial number around it that was a goal. And I would do all the things I'm supposed to do thoroughly. And then I would get to like a couple of days out till the end. And I would think, well, all the people that are going to sign up have done so. And I would back off in my energy. Why? Because I was exhausted. And I was working with a coach. This was a few years ago. And she was coaching me specifically on sales and filling programs and all of that. And like the date was gone. Like the program was like the starting date, actually. And she's like, did you hit your goal? I'm like, well, I'm really close, but not quite. She's like, well, you're not done then. I'm like, what do you mean? The program already started. She's like, no, you can get people in still. It's in the first week. You can still market. You need to call these people. You know, she gave me a bunch of pointers. I made another $5,000 by what she told me that I was going to stop. I was leaving that on the table. It made me think, how many other launches have I left lots of money on the table? And I have seen the same thing happen. I remember I was going for a certain goal one month, and there was 3 days left at the end of the month, and I felt I had done everything I could, but I really didn't. And so I used those 3 days, and I like emailed and messaged and called people, and I got just over my goal, like just a little, like $3 or something. And that would not have happened. I was close, but I wasn't that close. So it pushed me over, and I felt good about myself then. But it was so my self-sabotage technique was exhaustion. So it was nothing scary. And my subconscious mind really got me to believe that you've done enough, Jill. You've worked so hard, Jill. Now you can rest. It's okay. And I was settling for what I did have. It's all right. I was really good at like being super nice to myself. Oh, honey, it's okay. No, that wasn't helpful. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, honestly, like when you are expanding, it like, I'm not saying this because I'm a coach, but in a way I am, because I know this because I'm a coach, but also I say this because I am coach. You need someone that isn't emotionally invested in the thing you're doing when you're doing it, if you want to push through, because those people can, if they're good, they can see what you are not being aware of. And like, you might not, like, when people tell me, oh, I'll make a few more calls, like I wouldn't listen and I wouldn't believe them, and I wouldn't think that was the thing. It takes me a while to like get it. But then finally I'm like, this person, all these people that told me this before, they were right. I just didn't listen. So, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, what if we don't listen? Well, you might have to do it the long way like I did, but you eventually get it and you see, and then you learn. But it is helpful. I mean, that's why, like, it's good we have this group here. Like, we can talk about these things. We can see between the lines. We can share to like do the next thing. Yeah, it's not easy. Anything come up around that? And did that answer it?
Yeah, it's helpful. It's encouraging as well. And something was just right there and it went out. Oh my goodness. I'm really good about it. I feel a lighter energy now from that conversation, instead of like, okay, if I go for something big, why do I keep sabotaging it? And then I was kind of beating myself up a bit, versus this like helped me have a lighter energy. So prior to asking the question, I was a heavier energy for myself. And so this lightened it up. So thank you. And it's hopeful, it's exciting. And it's knowing, especially that at the end, having someone that's not emotionally attached is very helpful. And that's, yes, absolutely. I appreciate these sessions, and what we're getting out and stirring through is humongous, and we can take it out into our emotional worlds of things. But this is a great place to play it out. So yeah, definitely helped a lot. And I liked the exhausted thing. That one's great. I've done that many times on goals, and yeah. And it's funny because then when we were building our business, the thing that would help me sometimes is when there was a prize dangling, and it was that whole mentality of don't quit before the miracle. Like you want this prize, you'll do what it takes. And I kind of joke like, man, if I just did that every month, imagine how far I'd be. But just doing that every now and then, and letting yourself continue to do it and not quit before the miracle, and not let yourself down. And there's something incredible about running all the way across the finish line versus stopping the marathon just a little short because I'm tired. But it's amazing how our minds will play that on us. And I was cracking up. Oh, it's okay. You worked hard. That was exhausting. Let's just rest for 3 or 4 days and start again next month. And that's easy to do. But now the next month starts now. So whatever attitude I set now carries in. So if I keep running, that will carry. If I quit now I'm not only trying to start next month fresh, but I'm actually behind because I'm carrying in this dragging energy. So I've experienced that as well. It helps with anything.
Yeah, it's like you've got, I mean, like this is really important because like, okay, it's like you've got this rubber band, right? So the rubber band is now it's not stretched. It's just what it is, right? I wish I had one here. I don't have one here. But you got a rubber band, and then you have a goal. The goal's over here, and you're the rubber band. So you start stretching for the goal, and now there's resistance, right? Like there's a lot of resistance. You get right before the goal. If you could move past that first threshold, the whole piece would come here. When you won't move and you just be like, I'm tired, I gotta rest. Then you're starting back here next month. And you have to do all this again. Like if you could just let yourself leap, like push it a little harder, you'd be here. Now you're like up a level. So now when you want to do the next level of thing, you're already, you don't have to go through this again. You're done with this piece. But if you never let yourself get to that part, that step over that threshold, you have to keep repeating this over and over and over. Right?
Huge.
So like in my example of being exhausted, once you do that a couple times, suddenly like you don't get exhausted at the end. Because like now I know what this is like. I can do this, and your mind doesn't have that to throw in there to try to stop you again because you don't listen to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah,
that's an incredible analogy. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That's huge. And you're right. And once we're there, you just don't go there anymore. So go ahead.
Yeah. You'll get other stuff because it's going to get
then the next,
tight again. As you go to that next level, rubber band's going to get tight again. But then oh, okay, so this is my next hard thing. I can do that. I will survive. I will. You learn what you learned here, and maybe learn a few new things there.
Yeah, it gets easier, and it's like the rubber band is more flexible now because it's been stretched before. Right. So now going to the next level, it's more pliable or whatever the word is, than rigid. Yeah. So kind of fun.
Yeah. And the only way it would break is if you're running away from it. Like you're trying to go here and you're going, and then it's like, snap. Like then we have meltdown or like burnout or
Nice.
We get scared. Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. And this is specifically for Lee, but it could be possibly for Linda too. But so the exhaustion is a big sneaky way that we stop ourselves. Confusion. Our mind, we feel like I'm confused. I can't, when we go into confusion, when we tell ourselves we're in confusion, when we allow that to be a place where we spend time in confusion, that it feels comfortable, even though it's discomfort, but it's more comfortable than the alternative, because it means, oh, I'm confused, so I can't take any action right now until I get unconfused. And so a lot of people get stuck just spinning their wheels, being confused all the time, instead of taking a step. And what I have found when I have not really known is, like, well, I'm not sure. I take a step, and that always gives me clarity, because you get new information every time you do something different. It fuels clarity.
It's hilarious. My husband and I were talking about that earlier today.
Oh, really?
Exactly that. Yep. Taking that step is key. And maybe you don't know exactly which direction, but the fact that you're taking a step is going to give you feedback and let you know. Yeah. But if you just sit around and wait and have confusion, nothing. Yeah. So,
well, it's like the GPS in a car.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't drive forward,
mm-hmm.
because you have to move in order to get the next direction. Even if you're moving in the wrong direction, it'll correct you. You'll get information that'll tell you where to turn next, so you get back on track. But you have to actually drive forward and do something. Yeah. Sometimes we just make it so scary in our heads, and it's so wild. And really, if we can just take it that simple, like, it's just like put in the car and drive, just go. I don't get terrified that the GPS is going to correct me and I'm on the wrong course. It's just, I actually have the assurance of knowing it will help me get there. And so, it's that tapping into trust and viewing, hey, if I just show the universe I'm willing to take action, trusting that the answers will come and things will unfold because I'm taking the action. Yeah. Big. Yeah, and one other thing I want to say about, because I think it was Lee that brought up that, like, the fear of success, like, oh, what if, and Linda, I know you said that too, like, what if I do? What? Well, by the time, quantum leaps definitely happen. They absolutely happen. But I'm trying to think of, like, I don't want to say, like, I don't know what the right word is, but most of the time, and I don't know if most of the time is right, I don't know what percentage of time, but I feel I feel that most of the time it's like the quantum leaps are few and far between, where your life is one thing one day, and the next day it's like you've had this major windfall. Like, yes, that happens, but does it happen regularly to all people? No. It's like, so I think what happens more often than not is when you're going for something new and different, and you're changing your life, and you're stepping into something that you really want, you're moving along in these phases, these levels. By the time, and I have experienced this, by the time you finally get to a place that you've been trying to go, because you've been taking steps all along the way, when you actually get there, you're like, doesn't feel that different. This feels natural. Like, it actually feels natural. Now, in the past, you would have been like, that's not going to feel natural. That feels so different from where I am now. But because of the process that you've had to use to get there, it just becomes the natural next step, the natural next phase. So when you actually get there, this thing that you're fearing, this success, by the time you get there, if you keep moving forward, it's going to be like no big deal, and you'll be ready for the next thing. Because you're going to change and grow as you're taking all the steps. So you're actually changing in the process. So yeah, if you had the quantum leap, like the people that win the lottery, one day they're driving a forklift and the next day, they have millions of dollars in their bank. It can mess with some of those people, because they're not used to that. If they don't have good advisors, it could maybe not be so great for them. Most of them lose that money within 5 years, and they're back to where they were, because they didn't go through the process to change who they're being to be that. But for all of you working towards a goal, you are changing who you're being, so that by the time you get there, you are going to be able to handle it.
Thank you. That's comforting too. Yeah.
Okay. The other question was around putting yourself out there and saying, you know, like I'd go maybe a little more subtle. I vary. Like sometimes I'm outright like, hey, join. Like I'm signed up, scheduled something that's going out I think tomorrow. That is like, hey, sign up for this free training. I'm just saying it. But other times I'm telling a story and I'm weaving in a lesson maybe or a thought provoking question or something. And then maybe at the end I have a little PS. Oh, and by the way, if you want help with this, like you can have a complimentary session with me. We'll talk about it, or, you know, whatever. So the key, Lee, is this is, I mean, this is what I've found the key is. It's not to try to be like other people. It's to try to find your vibe, your jive or whatever, like your mojo with it, your pattern or rhythm. That's where find your rhythm that feels good to you. Because you know, there's a lot of people that teach like this is how you should do an email. This is how you should do marketing. This is how. But the thing is, like, okay, this goes back to the original thing of Love Yourself Rich program. Yeah, it works for them because they found what works for them. And yes, there's also marketing research. There's research that tells us what tends to work, what doesn't. But like, if I do an email in a way that feels really inauthentic to me and feels really sleazy and icky, but I do it anyways because that's what some guru told me gets a lot of clicks or something. That's if I don't feel comfortable with it, that energy goes out into the email and people are like, ooh, there's something about this that's a turnoff and I just don't know what it is. So that is something I have really worked on a lot over the years, is honing how I deliver things with a balance of what feels comfortable to me, what I've learned about marketing, and what I know about my ideal client, how they want to receive things, what they like to hear. It's been a process. And it came from like taking those steps, like, oh, let me try this. Let me see how this works. Let me see how I feel. Let me see what kind of response I get. It's all an experiment. But you want to look for, you know, how do you like to communicate? And how are you comfortable sharing? And because like you're right, like for you, you're not going to be the person that's like, this is me and I'm tooting my horn and you all need to like learn from me. Like that's just not your style. It's never going to work. No matter how much you finesse that, it's probably not going to work because that's just not who you are. And people can see right through it and they want you. So when you become you fully, that's when people are, and I'm still trying to become who I am fully. But like when you really become who you are, closer you get to that, the more you connect with the people that have just been waiting for you to show up and start shining. So your people are out there, but they're not going to see you if you're doing some contrived piece that you're putting out. You know, that this is not to say don't follow recommendations, but there's a way. See, I still have a call to action in almost every single email I send. Okay, that's a recommendation because it works. You need to be in front of people. So I follow that, but I'm trying to create it in my own way that I feel good about and that I've noticed what people respond to. So you find that for yourself just by trying stuff. And you can't make a mistake. It's just information. Mistakes are just additional information that you use as you move forward. Someone leaves your email list, you know, I get a lot of unsubscribed. that used to really bother me. Now it's like, guess they're not my ideal client. Thanks for clearing the field. And I've seen these people come back on in too. Like, I had one person that worked, what did she do? No, she hadn't worked with me yet. She sends me an email saying, you write the most salacious, like clickbait subject lines that just makes me have to open them. I'm thinking, oh, great. Thank you for the compliment, lady. That makes me have to open them. And it's just like, bleh. And she just was like complaining. She's like, this is horrible. Please unsubscribe me. I just, telling me how awful I am. And then I don't know, it was maybe a year later, because I remembered her. A year later, she did a small private little thing I was promoting with me, and she wrote me a testimonial. She's like, this is amazing. I mean, it's a funny, like, you don't know. So you can't take it, you just take it with a grain of salt, and it is what it is. Do you have any questions around that, Lee? Did I answer that?
No, that answers it. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It probably is a personality thing too, Yeah. And I can't do that.
No. Don't fit. Like I'm a square peg. I don't go in round holes. And I'm sure neither of you do either. It's just, no.
I guess the confusion can come up when I'm not completely clear, I'm wavering, and I hear this advice. I'm like, oh, that's the way I should do it. Or this, and so I can start going off in these little paths, not that I implement it right away, but I can think, well, this is the right way. And so there's this fine line between taking that information and then making it your own, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always listen with an ear to, I mean, that's being a good student. Like, listen with an ear to, how can I apply this in my life? Like, what about this could be really beneficial for me? Even when I get negative feedback, it's like, okay, what in this, what are they right about? Because there's always there's a kernel of rightness to it, what can I take from this and actually that could help me improve? But not to go so far as to say, this means I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be doing this. When we go there with it, that's when it becomes very destructive. But if you just take it from the perspective of, okay, like, she may have a point. I don't agree with it all, but is there something here I can learn from? Is there something I could do better next time? It's helpful. But when we make it personal, that's where we get into trouble. When you make it personal about yourself. Not everybody's going to like you. I don't know if you remember when it's almost a year now, when we did that challenge, a 5-day challenge. One of the things I talked about was that I learned from somebody that I interviewed in my summit, that she was talking about, I forget what she calls it, but like 1/3 of the people will hate you. When they'll be so turned off, like they'll actively despise you. 1/3 of the people who see your stuff. 1/3 of the people will just be indifferent. Like, it'll be like you're invisible. They don't interact at all. They don't care. You do nothing for them. 1/3 of the people are your like undying fans. They'll consume everything you do. They absolutely love you. They refer you to their friends. They eat it up. And that's the only chunk that's your ideal client. That is who you speak to, and you do not worry about those other 2 groups. You're not talking to them. If they get into your field, they'll go right out of your field when they realize, oh, this isn't my thing. And they might send some nasty grams on their way out.
Jill, I heard that in one of the coaching things I did here. And what I was told in that one was that with 1/3 who are indifferent, you try to find ways to pull them in.
You can if you want. I mean, it depends on, I don't put a lot of energy there. I'm not looking to pull people in. Like, I'm looking for the people that I know that I can help, that want my help. I don't like to try to convince people. If I see that someone's got a really faulty belief pattern, and I know, gosh, I know how to, and I've had these people like, and I know how to fix that. And I know if they were open to it, I could fix it, but they maybe can't get themselves to spend the money, or they just can't, like, they can't, their demons are like, just are getting in the way. Those are the people that, like, they might be in that middle thing, but like, you can't make someone do, and you don't want to make someone do something that like, you don't want someone to then like want a refund after a week because they're like freaking out about it. You want people that really want to change, they're highly committed to change, and they know you're the person that can help them. I mean, that's who you want to spend your energy around. But yeah, you can, I don't disagree with what they were saying. It's just that, how do you want to spend your energy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's super good advice. We used to talk about too in our business that if somebody, we would call it if they're at high noon. And so if you picture like a clock and your interest level going around a clock, and somebody might be at 1 or 2 or 3 and not super interested, 4, 5, 6 are getting more interested, 7, 8, 9, 10, a little more interested, but 11, if you get at 12, it's like, I am ready. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. They're committed, they're ready, they're in alignment with you. It's just high noon. So we kind of joke around about that. And then, you can't switch the clock for people, put them at high noon. If they're not ready, they're just going to whittle themselves out. And then it's a little bit more frustrating because you see the potential and you're trying to drag them along, but they're not willing to do it. And you could have spent that energy with 2 other high noon people instead of dragging this one that's not there. So that's huge advice. It's tricky because we all have very caring hearts. And so we see that potential. We're like, it's so great. You're right there. I see your soul. I see your light inside. It's there. But they're not ready or willing. It's not the time. So we get to just be the example and shine on with the third that we connect with. And then that might change a little bit. Then somebody can rise up into that or something. But it's tricky. But it's humbling to know there's a third that just won't even like you at all. Like, wow, why?
Yeah. I mean, that used to be a reason why I still get caught up with it every once in a while. That used to be a reason why I wouldn't put out certain pieces or put it in certain places, because the thought of someone not liking me was just horrible. But like, so I really had to work on that. And that actually, there was a shadow there for me around appearing stupid. Around certain people, I really didn't want to look stupid. And there was a big challenge for me. Huge. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they're not going to like you no matter what you do. I mean, at worst, they become indifferent. I mean, at best, they become indifferent. So it's not worth the time. It's not worth them letting you hold back your light, because you're not going to win them anyway. So just go shine. Shine for the people. Like, where is the person that can help me? I've met all these potential people and none of them are quite right, and they're waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, ladies, are we feeling complete for today?
Yeah, that feels good.
Yeah, thank you.
Great conversation. Thank you.
Good conversation. Yeah, awesome. So Tuesday's our training. So we'll do a little bit of workshop type activities. So come prepared, bring something to write with, bring a pen or something to type on, however you want to do it, and we'll bring your cards too, whether it's the PDF online or the physical, whatever. Make sure you have that available, because you're going to want to be looking at those for top 3. We probably won't touch on the bottom one on Tuesday, but we'll look at the top 3 and just do a little bit of journaling around that and a little bit of sharing, and maybe another exercise. Still finalizing the plan. Yeah.
Exciting. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you both. Great to
Thank
see
you.
you both here shining. And let's have a great weekend. And I'll talk to you Tuesday.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.